In retirement, the relationship that we have with our stuff begins to change. During our earning years, we've accumulated things, we repair things, we maintain things. And most of the stuff that we have is either useful, potentially useful, or they carry some meaning for us. So we hold on to it. A lot of times we hold on to all of it. And over time, the stuff begins to pile up, right? And yet, for as long as I can remember, they've advised us to unburden ourselves, get rid of the stuff. And that was long before minimalism was even a thing. But I've always kind of had a love hate relationship with that advice. If you're new here, my name is Mel. I'm 75, and I'm sitting here in my backyard at my koi pond and just thinking about all the things that I have kept and wondering what I should do with it all. I want to share a personal story about those tough decisions, whether to keep the stuff or toss it. But not only from the point of view of how it can burden us, but also from the point of view that we don't talk enough about, I don't think, and that's the effect it has on the people that we leave behind. After all, like they say, you can't take it with you. And once you're gone, the stuff, it's still there. And I found myself wondering, who's going to make those tough decisions when I'm gone? Me or the people that I leave behind? My parents, they passed away pretty close to their 90s. And I honestly don't think that they ever got rid of pretty much anything during their decades of life. Now, I'm not saying they were hoarders, but my goodness, in their house, the garage, and the sheds, and the backyard, it was full of stuff. Stuff that I know that they hadn't used or even seen in many, many years. I'm talking tools, clothing, furniture, files, memorabilia, and all our efforts to help them purge fell on deaf ears. Now, I don't blame them for that, and maybe it was none of our business. But on the other hand, maybe it was. Because when they passed, it became our business. And what followed were weeks and weeks of deciding, sorting, discarding, and just trying to make sense of it all. Were they treasures for them? Were they records for posterity? Or were they just things that they just couldn't let go of? We really just didn't know. And in truth, we weren't just sorting through possessions. We were trying to understand what these things meant for them and what they wanted us to do with them. So what we did was we went through everything, item by item. And it was tedious. And still, though, I couldn't help wonder as we went through it, weren't these things a burden to them? Perhaps they were, but obviously they they probably also comforted them, reminding them that they had lived and lived long lives. I think it probably gave them a sense of worth. And just as important, I do believe that they felt that they wanted to leave things behind for us. because they probably thought there were plenty things that we wanted, but they had never ever talked to us about them. And maybe that's where things get a little complicated when we consider these things. We feel that we're gifting things to our heirs, but a lot of times it just, for them, it just ends up being more responsibilities. For the most part, they don't want our stuff. Back then I was 65. Now at 75, I'm becoming keenly aware that our children will someday have to be sorting through our stuff. And have I talked to my kids about this? Sadly, yeah, I haven't. Which means if I don't, there's a good chance that they'll be going through the exact same thing that we went through some 10 years ago. And do I want that burden to fall on them? No, I don't. I remember back then when we were sorting through my parents' stuff, our kids were able to help us occasionally. And I remember at one point when my wife and I were contemplating and debating over an item, whether to keep it or toss it, whatever, my son walked by and he looked at us and he just asked, "Do you want that?" And we looked at it and we said, "No, not really." And he simply said, "Toss it or donate it. What's next?" And now maybe he didn't have the same emotional attachment to these things that my wife and I had. So the decision felt much easier for him. But you know what hit me? When he's tasked with going through our things, it's going to be far more personal for him. So here's our plan right now. We're going to start talking with our kids about this very thing. What should we keep? What should we get rid of? What maybe do they want? Are there family items that they might want to keep? And we can also explain to them why we keep certain things, because they mean something to us and they provide us joy and memories. The hope is when all this process falls on their doorstep, they won't be guessing about why we kept it, what things meant to us, and what we want for them. And those conversations, they're going to also help us as we decide right now what we keep and what we get rid of. And we'll be able to do it while we still have the clarity, the energy, and the ability to sort through all the stuff. Because the more we sort through today, the less burden there'll be for our kids when we're gone. In the end, you know, stuff, our stuff, your stuff, they do tell a story about us. It's just that we don't want to leave it to them to interpret what that story is. I don't want my kids standing in a garage years from now wondering what to do without a clue as to what we wanted. I'm curious, how do you feel about all this? Talk to me below in the comments. I'm Mel, and I want to thank you for spending a few minutes with me in my backyard. And I'll see you in the next video. Thank you.